Welcome back to the Farms in BC podcast. Now, for the first episode of 2025, we've got to start it off with Happy New Year. Now, there's a lot to discuss that happened here in 2024. First and foremost, we got the elections, not only the BC elections, but also the USA presidency was also determined. And in Canada itself, of course, we got the interest rates, reductions from Bank of Canada we got to discuss. And finally, just the overview of sales and pricing and whatnot here in 2024, as well as the projections that we're seeing coming into 2025. Stay tuned for all that and more. Well, Nav, hindsight 2020, we had certain expectations for 2024, knowing that the rates are coming down. That's kind of the trend that we were hoping for, hoping to see, which we did see. Yeah. I think a little bit later than we expected, but we did see it. What was your expectations of 2024 and how did it pan out?
2024 was an interesting year. We overall, I think everybody was at the edge of their seat starting January. Mm-hmm. And as a rate announcement would come, weeks before, everybody would be like, is it going to be 25? Is it going to be 50? Or is it going to be a hold? And I think once they saw that repetition of 25% drop, 0.25% drop, then you saw these rapid reductions. So I think overall, from the beginning to the end of the year, we saw it ramp up. Mm-hmm. But it was a roller coaster. You saw where it was very busy for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks prior or a week prior to the announcement, it would die down.
People would hold their breath.
They would hold their breath. Hey, okay, is it going to come further? Is it going to come further? Yeah. So overall, I would say it was a roller coaster of a year.
For sure.
To summarize 2024.
And look at the ending as well, right?
Well, the ending, even the ending was unexpected. With those two big interest rate reductions, the whole team, we were so busy, mm-hmm. right? And I think that really helped at the end.
Yeah, for sure.
But definitely there was a very challenging year. Yeah. I would say not only for realtors, for sellers' expectations, buyers, it was challenging for them. They were in a position where, why write an offer when people are reducing the price and interest rates are coming down? Mm-hmm. They're in the win-win situation. And inventory was quite steady. I wouldn't say inventory was so high. Mm-hmm. So buyers were in a winning position. So it was one of those challenging years where you had to cater to buyers and their needs and advising them correctly when is the best time to execute. At the same time, having sellers and getting their expectations back to where market is. And I think a lot of people still have those 2022 prices in their mind, which I don't think we're going to see for a very long time. Yeah. But overall, I would say overall, it was a good year. Yeah. If you were to look overall, it was a good learning curve. I think all of our staff, all of our agents, myself, I think we learned a lot. Mm-hmm. I've been through 3 market shifts. This has probably been the most aggressive market shift. Mm-hmm. And these are good educational times where you get to learn how to adapt, change and modify your systems based on current market conditions. I think if coming out of a market like this, it just makes us better, right? As a team. Same thing for buyers and sellers as well. Everything needed to kind of come back to reality, simmer down, and kind of just level out. And I strongly feel that we're at that position now. I think we've been here for the last 3-4 months.
Yeah. And I mean, even at all the way up until the very last day, 30th, 31st kind of thing, right? It's just busy, especially in that last week. It's a good thing we didn't take any vacations in that last week. But it actually was busier that week, probably. I don't even know, but it was significant.
Well, I was looking at our sales stats. Mm-hmm. I do a summary at the end of every year. We did the same amount of deals from October to December than we did from January to October.
Yeah.
That's how big the volume shifted within the last quarter of 2024.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was insane.
And obviously another big ticket item in the conversation of 2024 was the BC elections.
Yeah, there was actually a few factors, like you mentioned. There's a lot of factors that played these pauses, played a role with the roller coaster ride of 2024. BC elections was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say about a month prior to those actual the election day,
Mm-hmm.
we saw for that 4 weeks, we saw the market really just kind of pause.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of buyers were very scared. They didn't know if the NDP were going to win. They didn't know if the Conservatives were going to win. They had a lot of positive hope for future growth and positivity for the markets. If the Conservatives did win, I think the markets probably would have taken off earlier, sooner
Mm-hmm.
than October, November, if the Conservatives did win. But because the NDP won, people are still fearful that the way they're spending, where the money is being put through the NDP,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't correlate with a lot of the people that voted in the farming areas.
Yeah.
You look at all the rural areas, they all voted Conservative.
BC was almost all blue.
Blue. It was all blue except for the Tri-Cities, right?
Yeah.
Now, looking back at everywhere that it was blue, it was mostly rural properties.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to see that change.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that, like, I think there's, myself, I wanted to see that change as well.
Mm-hmm.
But because the NDP won, I think now in the last quarter of 2024, people are like, okay, they're here, they're going to stay. How does this affect the next 4 years? Because they're going to be there for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they can invest accordingly. I have seen NDP have already started to make little changes outside of their original norm.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, the NDP last time when they won, they also had they had two Green Party members that were balancing the party, balancing
Right.
the power. This time, NDP has now a majority.
Yeah.
So them having a majority, that will allow them now to dictate how to proceed without pleasing another party like the Green Party, which is very far left, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. The NDP might be the neutral center-right party versus Conservative being leaning more towards the left, right?
Right.
So-
And I mean, there were so many things that I was hoping for as well. I mean, the ALR, it's been long in play for over 50 years now, right? Since 1974, 1972,
72, yeah.
in that range, right? And man, it's a long time for things to be in status quo. And we were thinking, you know what? If anything does change, it's going to be something minor, but at the same time, change nonetheless. And I think a lot of people were looking forward to that, or at least flexibility, right?
I think what happened when NDP came in power and all the ALR rules changed in 2019, they really stripped all the power away from all the farmers. Well,
Mhm.
not even power. I would say they stripped their rights away from all the farmers.
Mm.
Conservatives, I think a lot of people wanted to see our rights given back, and they were hoping that if the Conservative Party won, that us farmers would be able to get our rights back that were stripped away from us.
Mhm.
Now, people may think that's only housing. It's not. Housing was one part. There was certain aspects like they stripped the right for a farmer to actually apply to the ALC,
Mhm.
that you'd have to get municipal approval now first before you can apply to the ALC. And now municipalities cannot do anything without ALC approval completely.
Yeah.
So and you can't even apply for rezoning. You can't apply for amendments. They stripped all those rights away. Another hope with the Conservatives is that they may look at a lot of land in the ALR that is not being farmed, nor ever will be farmed, and are primary examples that could be out of ALR and out for development.
Mhm.
I think that's a big factor with all this housing crisis that we have. We don't have enough land. And there's so much farmland that's touching some of these development areas that have access to sewer, city water, hydro, gas, everything. And they are not being farmed, and they never will be farmed because the soil conditions are not good enough. Why wouldn't they be looked at and potentially taken out?
Yeah.
So I think there was a lot of hope with the Conservative Party for those reasons.
Mhm.
Those are my personal reasons. And I think talking to farmers, that was some of their reasoning as well, that, it will change. Also, I was talking to a lot of larger manufacturing companies that are not on agricultural land, but are using agricultural products. Why are they have to be in industrial locations when they should create agricultural industrial zones on farmland properties that are not farmable, allow these manufacturers that are using farm products to start manufacturing on farmland with warehousing. Again, it's something that the NDP just won't do or touch, but that was a hope that the Conservatives would have brought in.
That's a huge flexibility aspect as well, because that's like agricultural manufacturing. Where else are you going to do it, right? Because you need a place for that, and they don't allow that, right, on agricultural land, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
But same with agricultural food processing. Like, there's only certain areas that they'll allow that, and if that flexibility was opened up, it would, really allow us.
Well, majority of the processing facilities, they're all unauthorized.
Yeah.
If you were to walk into the ALC today and say, hey, I want to do a manufacturing facility for food processing, it would cost you ridiculous. It would cost you an arm and a leg just to get permitting. It would cost you 2 to 3 years to get approvals. And there's so much red tape that it just doesn't allow people to move forward. Yeah. The Conservative Party was also going to be pro-economy. They were wanting to drive the economy. They were trying to tap into natural gas resource deposits. They were going to expand mining operations. They were going to expand the forestry operation. Therefore, would have boosted the trucking industry, would have boosted the construction industry. They were going to look at red tape, a lot of red tape with all provincial municipal jurisdictions, which would have fast-tracked the economy. Now, NDP still might do all of this. We don't know. These are all topics that were brought forward by the Conservatives. And NDP is aware of them now. And with our BC deficit that just rolled out, I think we're in a $7 billion deficit. In order to tackle that, they're going to have to open the economy. And they just might. So we don't know. It's too early to tell. Yeah. But 2024, that's what happened. A lot of people were just sitting on the sidelines, hoping for change. Change didn't come on the BC election side of things. And I think closer to the end of 2024, people got to live with it. Yeah. So the next 4 years is going to be them, and all we can do is cross our fingers and hope that they start making some real change.
It's all like a microcosm of the actual full Canada picture as well, because what you're seeing here is actually on the national scale as well.
Yeah.
And not only on the national scale, but I would say even the USA. It's the same conditions, same issues that are coming up, and it's the same trend that we're seeing is kind of towards that pro-economy growing, phase.
Yeah.
That's where everybody wants to be right now.
Well, it's the only way each country, each province or state or municipalities are going to get out of these massive deficits that they're in. Yeah. Right? Taxing the hell out of everybody is not going to solve the problem. So they have to come up with alternative ways to generate revenue. And it's the only way to do it is turn on the engine for the economy to start booming again, right?
Yeah. And on that topic, I guess we can get right into Trump. What are your thoughts on that? That happened as well.
I'm actually glad he won. For the U.S., I'm hoping Canada picks up on some of the changes that they're reviewing in the U.S. We have way too much government.
Right.
If you look at the job numbers of Canada, majority of the hires were in the public sector. They're outpacing the private sector. So the government is boosting up our employment numbers by just hiring more people. And a lot of these, and for the amount of population we have, we should have a fraction of the amount of people that work for the government. So I'm hoping with what's happening in the US, once there's a federal election here in Canada, we are going to start asking the right questions. Question number one, do we need this much government? Do we need this much government spending? Do we need this much funding for government? So will a lot of these government agencies be looked at and start being reduced?
Yeah.
So, that's something I'm glad Trump came in and is opening the eyes in general. And I think a lot of countries are probably having that issue. Based on his immigration policy, there's things I agree with. There's things I disagree with. I do feel that with the immigration, I do believe that you should be allowing other foreigners to come into our country that are bringing good talent. Right? I think there was a massive, there was the way that they've just opened immigration as a whole. They should have been very selective, but being selective and fast. What they just did is they were just trying to open it all to flood the floodgates. And now, when they made it too easy to come in, now they're going to make it twice or 3 times as hard to come in. They overshot it. They overshot it. And now they're going to overshoot putting the restrictions in. And that's how government typically works. They overshoot it and then they scale back. And then they continue playing that game, right? So on the immigration side, I think we'll just see how that plays out and how many people run from the US to the Canada border. We'll see how that plays out. The only biggest other thing is this tariff thing. I think it's just a tactic. It's a negotiating tactic.
It's going to be short-lived, I think. It's going to be resolved pretty quickly. But if it was in play for a long period of time, it would be quite devastating. It would be...
Well, you have to understand, we've got a free trade agreement with Mexico and US. Even if he puts 10% tariffs, he's talking, he started off at 25. He scared the shit out of the whole country. Even if he lands between 10 and 15, we think we're going to win. That's still a huge difference from 0. So even if he throws on 10 or 15% tariffs, that's still it's going to hurt our economy. However you look at it. Then we have to see what the new government of Canada how they're going to react. We saw how the Liberals reacted. They went and had a meeting, and they've been getting made fun of for the last month and a half as we are the 51st state of the U.S. Conservatives may play a different ball game. They might play hardball. They might play tit for tat. So you'd raise ours 15%. We're going to raise. Then you get into this trade war.
We have this other huge card to play as well. We have Alaska, and Alaska is in between. We're in between Alaska and the USA. So I mean, if he's wanting to mine Alaska or go for oil over there, like he's been saying he's going to do, that has to go through Canada as well at some point.
To an extent,
So, I mean, there's so many different things that are in play. And I mean, it turns out that a lot of our gas is going to the USA, and we're going to the USA to buy our own gas. So
that's what I mean. So like if the Conservatives, once the Conservatives win federally, which obviously we know it's going to be by a landslide, it's just now when, how are they going to handle this negotiation? And they're definitely going to handle it different than how the Liberal Party handled it, right? So regardless of Trump coming in, he threw a lot of fear in the marketplace. He did the right thing for US. US is now, their economy is booming, stock market is booming, everything is booming because they feel positive with the leader. They feel that they finally have someone that's fighting for them and fighting for making their country great again. We don't have that yet. We don't see that yet. Trudeau's definitely not the person to do that. Jagmeet Singh is not the person to do that. And if Pierre does win, he may, from the front facing before election, he may feel like he's the right person, but you really don't know until they start rolling out their policies. We're going to find out pretty quick because they are going to win. But again, 2024, Canadians were watching the U.S. election. They were also making their investment decisions based on the U.S. election. Even though it's not affecting us directly, it always affects us indirectly.
Now, another big ticket item, obviously, the Bank of Canada. We had quite a few rate reductions, holds as well. And then near the end of the year, we finally got that relief that we were really craving since the beginning of the year. We had 2 major price reductions, the 0.5 reductions. One was earlier, I believe, in November. And then the last one was in December 11th. I feel like the December 11th one was felt more than the November one was. It was still relief regardless, but for sales stimulation?
I agree with you. I think a lot of buyers that were sitting on the sidelines, there was a quick hype after the first big rate drop. Well, let's go back. I think all of 2024, as they were doing the quarter drops, there wasn't that much of a hype, which we thought it would be. So that was our miscalculation. We thought, as interest rates come down, buyers are going to get more motivated to purchase. Did not happen. Buyers actually said, well, interest rates are coming down. We know they're going to come even further down. Why would we buy now? Why would we lock ourselves in now? So what happened at the first interest rate of 0.5 that came down, we thought that the market, we needed a big boost of rate cuts before the market took off. It didn't take off as aggressively again as what we thought. Now the last 0.5 reduction they had, I think that really started, that gave us the extra boost for them to start saying, okay, now is the time to buy. And that's why we've been so busy.
Yeah, it was meaningful.
It was meaningful, yeah.
Now, what would you project is going to be coming up in 2025? I know we've heard from the Bank of Canada that they're kind of thinking about slowing that down. I don't think they're going to be major, or what do they call it, the bonus reductions, or
well,
funny word for them,
I think in 2025 I think there's probably going to be a 1 to 1.5% reduction throughout the year. I do think they're going to stagger it. I don't think they're going to go as aggressive. I do think they might even space it out where they might do a quarter pause, or potentially 2 pauses, a quarter. But I think we're still in the trajectory of if the rates going down. That's the key. With that is going to come buyers, more buyers are going to want to purchase over that time. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of sellers that have been waiting for this moment as well. So I think interest rates are going to come down considerably. I've had a few meetings with a few mortgage brokers, a few bankers, and from what I've heard, it can go as low as 2.99 for a 5-year fix close to the end of 2025. Wow. Yeah. So right now, on a 5-year fix there, we saw it touch 3.9 when the bond yields were low. Then now it's back up to about 4.2 to 4.45. They're projecting that it might hit back to 2.99 by the end of 2025.
Wow.
So we're on the right trajectory to have rates lower.
I feel like this year is going to be the year where all these folks that purchased maybe in 21 and they were in a low rate environment, they are, maybe holding for a point where they think their price is going to come back up again. And they're probably thinking 2025 is that year to sell if they needed to. What are you thinking about projections for 2025 in terms of sales?
I think overall, I think it's going to stay flat. I know there's a lot of positive, it's kind of what happened in 2024. I think there's always hype around it, and there's a lot of optimism about the market getting a lot.
Came into 2024 very optimistic.
You know what? But I still think there's still that. I think there is a lot more optimistics for 2025 because we still know the interest rates are coming down. But I think it's going to be a balanced market. I think you're going to see a lot of buyers buying cautiously. I think a lot of sellers are going to want to sell that have been waiting to sell that could afford to hold for the last 2 years are going to want to try testing the market now. Maybe they won't, as long as they don't have to do any fire sales, right? I could tell you we have, like, on my side of things, we've got, I would say, over 20 to 25 listings that are slated for the first 2 quarters of 2025. Like, it's a lot of inventory you're going to see hit at the market. And if you are a seller and you are not priced correctly, even if interest rates are coming down, your stuff will not sell. If you are trying to play that game where you list high and let's see what happens, you are going to sit there and see what's going to happen, and you will be reducing after 3-6 months. So if you're a serious seller, list. If you're not a serious seller and you don't want to sell it at today's market value, do not list your property. Wait till the end of 2025 or spring of 2026 when everything balances out. Keep in mind, we still have a federal election in 2025, which they're still going to bring uncertainty because we don't know what the policies of the Conservative Party are going to be, and that won't roll out till the end of 2025. Trump is still not in, and we don't know where his tariffs are going to fall. So that is still a big uncertainty. We don't know how fast the interest rates are going to fall. We know they are going to fall, but we don't know how fast. That is still an uncertainty. So 2025, even though we know it's going positive, we don't know how fast or at what pace or at what cost. Right?
Yeah, big uncertainties. I mean, obviously, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket when there's so many different variables that are going to be
Yeah.
up in the air right now, right? So by end of 2025, all these things will be laid out and we'll have a better understanding.
Well, then we've got a 4-year projection.
Yeah.
We know what the U.S. president's going to do. We can estimate for the next 4 years. We know which party's in power federally. We can project what they're going to do. NDP's in power provincially. We know now what they're going to be doing. There's a vision, and each party's going to have their platform that they're going to run on, and at least there's a path that people can calculate or make educated decisions based on what type of investment they want to do if they want to get into real estate or if they want to sell their real estate portfolio, right?
Awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, that pretty much sums up what we had for 2024. Obviously, a lot of changes, and we're seeing more of those changes have their effects come to fruition in 2025. That's what we're going to see here. And so 2025 will still have those uncertainties, but I think we're a little bit more optimistic about 2025 than we were for 2024.
Yeah.
It's a good news story. And let's see how it goes. Any final thoughts?
I think we should discuss like what type of products that, one thing that I've seen that's very different. When the market was hot, everything was hot.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen is I think a lot of the sellers and buyers need to be aware of for 2025 is that you're going to see different categories of farms change differently over 2025 and 2026. You're going to see 0 to 5 acres, depending on location, you're going to see them go up in value. You might see them go up anywhere from 5 to 10% because the demand and the buyer pool is much bigger. We've talked about this in our previous podcast, but I think it's now going to actually bump up those prices. I think the prices that are 5 to 10 acres, I think those are going to go up slightly. 10 to 20 acres, there might only go up very slightly or might stay the same. I think the bigger parcels, 20 plus acres or 20 to 40, you might see a slight price reduction. And I think the bigger parcels like 30 plus, you might see a big price reduction.
Yeah.
So you're going to see this weird curve of the smaller pieces price go up, the bigger pieces prices come down. And there's going to be this odd narrow gap of big to small. It might only be about right now I've seen in Langley, like 5 acres with a fully renovated house. Like I sold 5 acres for like 2.7, 2.8. And I've also sold for $3 million a 10 acre, like $200,000 difference.
Right.
Before we used to see that gap at 2.7, 2.8, but that gap would have been at 3.2 to 3.5. And the 20 acres now, that gap has come down to about 3.5, which used to sit at 4. And then the 40 acres that were usually at about 4.5 have now come down to about 3.8 to 4. Like you're going to start seeing all of these odd changes in acreage pricing. So I think it's very crucial. If you're a seller, talk to a professional. Jay, you're good at your location. You know that area inside and out, Abbotsford, Chilliwack. I think if you're a seller, reach out to Jay, get an evaluation done, have a conversation about tax planning, have a conversation of 2025 projections. Myself, Surrey, Langley, Delta, Pitt Meadows, everything's changing and the environment of agriculture is changing for 2025 and potentially for 2026. It's a very changing market still. So, talking to the right professionals, getting updated with proper, accurate information throughout the year is going to be key to make the right decision for you. And when is the right time to sell? Same thing for buyers. Specific products, it depends what type of product you want. You may find some amazing deals as a buyer, depending on what type of product you want. And if you're in that category that is between 0 and 5 or 0 to 10 acres, you may want to act sooner than later because, you're going to be competing with a lot more people. And as interest rates come down, it's more in people's affordability. And what we've seen is a lot of 5 to 10 acre buyers. What do they typically do? They're typically selling a detached home, moving the equity into a 5 acre farm or a 10 acre farm, or they're selling 2 residences and doing that. So as long as those residents start now selling, which they have been, you're going to see that buyer pool, pent up demand start going up.
You'd be surprised how much you can actually transition, because if you're going from a residential lot, you can actually find some nice properties, even in nice pockets like Mission and Maple Ridge, where they're affordable.
Yep.
And you can make that transition into an acreage pretty relatively easily.
Yeah.
And be able to float it pretty easily as well.
Yeah. I think having the right advisors on your team is going to be key. When to execute and how to execute.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. That's the wrap for 2024. We're looking forward to 2025.
Yeah.
Let's kick it out of the park this time.
Yeah, definitely.